that ended with the victory of the Rus people, and that is why there is a wall in China today along the border. That is another reason that the new calendar was created and books of old were burned. There was a war 250 years ago that wiped out the previous civilization of the Rus people, somewhere around 1780. As you probably remember, the predators always try to clean the surface of Earth after the wipeout of civilization so they can prepare the place for new cattle and sheep, humans, to arrive so they wouldn't know what was here before. But at the time of the last wipeout, the attack from the predators was intended to be final, because the previous ones demolished and killed almost all sages, wizards and beings that knew the magical arts. Lelia, the Ark, our spacecraft, was destroyed 13,000 years ago. Then the Fata Ark was destroyed with a nuclear weapon and that caused a flood. There is a monument to Fata Ark in the Vatican that you can see today. The monument commemorates the victory of the predators over human race. Now, an interesting fact as to why there is so much salt water on Earth. As you remember, it was mentioned that originally on Midgard Earth there were no oceans, and they appeared due to much work of powerful rotary excavators, excavations of rocks and minerals, e.g. the Grand Canyon in Arizona, all over the Earth's surface, and Mother Nature had to fill the huge caves with water because in the law of nature there should be no emptiness. That is the reason why we have 2/3 RDs of the surface of the planet covered with water. Another clue why when a big spacecraft Fata Ark was destroyed, it caused flooding, and that was reflected in biblical scriptures as flood. The only important detail is that Fata Ark was destroyed not long ago. And another curious observation is that there are buildings and architecture you may find on every continent, country today with magnificent art of design and splendor with very similar details, almost as if there was one architect-builder that builds them everywhere. And the books will tell us that all of it was built in 18th-19th century, but firstly there were non-stop wars at that time, and also, if you investigate the details of the buildings, they had all kinds of utility feeds there, electrical, gas, waste fluid piping, water piping, etc., and that doesn't fit the description of the 18th century when people used candles for lighting. Now the same type of architecture suggests that, at the time these buildings were built, there was one country and one civilization throughout the whole of Midgard Earth, that's our planet. Though there are differences with some places like China, and other places, due to the fact that the predators, after wiping out the population, were bringing their slaves from different Chertog cells to our planet. That is why there is a different culture and architecture that you may find today in Asia. And you may find the different people today in Africa and Asia. And they were brought here by the predators from various enslaved Chertogs of the Big Sphere. The traces of the flood can be noticed if the buildings are carefully analyzed. You may see that all of the old buildings are 3 to 5 meters, 1 or 2 floors, below ground level. And this phenomena for old buildings exists on every continent today. Now if you look at the surface of Earth today, e.g. using Google Maps, you will see a lot of traces of huge excavation work done by the predators throughout Earth. And a lot of excavation of minerals is going on in the territory of the USA, so very little land is left to support the continent today. An analogy would be as if turning a pyramid upside down. Now another curious fact, there are very few places where you can see gigantic trees, California sequoia trees and others, where their age is more than 1,000 to 2,000 years, and almost all the rest of the forests were built artificially about 250 years ago to conceal the crime that has been done to the planet and population by the predators. As you can see in old pictures, 200 years ago there were no trees. And another one, dinosaurs were coexisting well with humans 250 years ago, and also mammoths too. What killed them was a nuclear attack and the consequent nuclear winter after the event of 250 years ago. As you can see, There are a lot of caves of different diameters after nuclear bombs landed on Earth 250 years ago. They can also be seen on Google Maps. There is more proof. You may notice the old buildings have steps and high doorways, ceilings for big people, 14 feet tall, and small people, 6 feet tall. The reason is that here on Earth, big and small people were coexisting together. The giants probably were brought from other Chertogs by the predators. Now let's take a look at some strange architecture in the various places that appeared to be in a star shape. Why is that? Not what you may be thinking. There was a practical reason for pumping gas from Earth. And the reason they built strong high walls was to prevent big animals from entering and damaging the intricate technological complex inside the walls. They built the city that had a gas pipeline available at the spot. Now let's have a look at the architecture of the big buildings with columns. What is that type of building for? The reason for the many columns is that these were electric utility stations that were producing electricity from ether, research Nikola Tesla's work, and supplying the city with free electricity. Now let's take a look at the architecture of churches, Cerkov, in Russian, and the reason for this type of architecture was to connect to the information field to be able to learn, know and create. The wise man and sages were teaching children in those places. Though after the 1917 revolution in Russia, the government destroyed most of the churches of amazing architecture that had a lot of Vedic ancient relics. The famous Moscow Cathedral of St. Basil was a Vedic ancient place of Perun, son of Spherical. There was a big repair work that destroyed all the sacred symbols and writings on the walls and side. And another detail, at the top of every church, there is a vertical rod decorated with some art. It has a practical application, to collect energy from space, ether. But those who serve in churches today, clergy and popes, have no clue of the real purpose of the architecture. Similar to the cargo cult story. The same is true for colosseums, which we are told were there for gladiator fights, etc., which is untrue. This architecture was used as a solar energy collecting farm. There is one in Tajikistan Republic which was built in the 1970s. Now about UFOs, this was our technology from our previous civilization that the predators used today for their own benefit and agenda. That's why they do not want to talk about it. So, let's take a look at this picture and ask a few questions that probably people have in mind. Who are Masonic members? Who are Jewish, Evray in Russian language, people? Ev means first. Rej is a crossover of a mast in a boat. Jewish people gave this name to themselves to portray that they are the first and leading-edge people. Now let's have a look at a clip from the film, Transformers. Here there is a clue. Religion was formed to unite groups of people on a religious basis. Because after wipeout of the population 236 years ago, there was a need to give people something to believe in. And our ancestors sent us a sage magician, Volhv in Russian, so he could help and guide us to improve the situation. People know this man by the name of Jesus Christ, other name is Radomir. At birth, he was given the name Elysee, but the name is not important right now. He was killed by the Murds, a Jewish group, and then they convinced people to take a Christian religion. There are known facts about the enforcing of the Christian religion all over Russia by using sword and fire. At the time, a lot of people were killed in order to enforce Christianity in Russia. The history books are a complete lie. Here is a simple example. Let's take a look at the year 1656 as it was actually written. IO 56. I was changed into 1. And O was altered into whatever was needed at the time. So, in the last 250 years, the predators gave us 2,000 years of history. So why did our ancestors not help us? Why did they allow those horrible events on Midgard Earth to occur? The reason is that there was a global war with dark entities in many places, Chertogs, at the same time. And our ancestors did not have enough resources to save the situation on Midgard-earth, so they had to sacrifice our place to save others. It's understandable that it hurts to learn this. And it's a known fact that, during war, decisions are made, and losses are inevitable. The fact is, life is never lost. There is no end in life. And our ancestors are always sending helpers here, indigo people, prophets and magicians. As you may recall, there were 3 Ark spacecrafts, 2 were destroyed, and 1 is still here. 1 Ark was repaired and it is always near and watching and guarding over Midgard-earth now. There are some people that are taken to another Chertog by the ancestors, it's not know how many. And we are here infected by a virus. So we are here, still occupied by predators. Dear friends, we live in an amazing time right now on our Midgard-earth, and every one of us is here for a reason. To defend our kind, family and kin, and the land of our fathers and our ancestors is the responsibility of every man of the people of light, till our sun, Yarilo, is here shining on us. There will be another continuation of this video later because there is still much more to tell.